It was, I can't really determine this. Yeah, it was them one-on-one. Where the hell did it go? Here we go. Joel Gertner tweeted. Now, okay, Nia Jax, I get it. Everybody's got their things against her. Again, I'll always talk shit about Nia professionally until she improves. I'll never resort to what other people do in fat shaming. And again, that's the one thing I'll always defend her with. Joel Gertner tweeted this out that I thought was an incredible. And again, if you're a fan of the history of wrestling, you'll really appreciate this. And appreciate, I guess, where the women's revolution has come to this point. Gertner tweets, until 1972, women were banned from wrestling professionally in New York City. Tonight, they headline. Congratulations, Ronda Rousey and Nia Jax. I mean, just that tweet by itself, it speaks volumes. I mean, 1972 is now, what, 46 years ago? To think of it from a numbers perspective, in about 46 years, you've gone from women being banned from competing as a professional wrestler in New York to, again, almost 50 years later, now they're headlining a pro wrestling live event, nonetheless a WWE live event at Madison Square Garden. That's history. Now, I don't think that was advertised as the main event. I don't remember hearing anything about it. Here's what I'm mad about that. I'm happy for them. You have a star like Ronda to be able to allow moments like this to be capitalized upon. Now, you could have done it with Becky and Charlotte. You could have done it with, say, the Four Horsewomen in a exhibition four-way dance or exhibition tag match, since Becky and Charlotte are kind of back on mixed terms. That shit's something that should have been on television. That should have been something that should have been accompanied by, again, on TV or even a WWE Network special. If you knew that this is something that was going to happen, then broadcast it. You're so concerned about the women's evolution and how women are looked at in the world of pro wrestling, and in WWE in particular, and I'm talking to the main office now at this point. That moment is something that should have been televised. If you knew this was something that you were going to want to do, I get the whole historical aspect of it. Okay, pretty much 50 years after women were basically legally allowed to wrestle professionally in New York, now they're going to be main eventing a Madison Square Garden card. That's huge. They dropped the ball on, you should have broadcasted that shit. You have, I believe, to my knowledge, they have had network specials for Madison Square Garden. I think they should still have network specials for Madison Square Garden, because that building has significant history with the WWE and the McMahon family in general, to the point where the McMahon family is in Madison Square Garden's, for lack of a better term, Walk of Fame. They have their own space in the garden dedicated to them. That was poor planning. I think they should have done something more with that. They should have done a lot more with that. Again, while it's special for, I don't know how many people other than Joel Gertner, and I'm sure plenty of others who've gone there, have thought about this, but that's a big moment for the 20, let's say, for round numbers' sake, let's say those 20,000 people, they got to witness history. And from a business standpoint, I guess if you're thinking of it this way, shit, now I kind of want to go to another Madison Square Garden show and make the effort to grab the tickets and take the time out of my day to go to New York City in the middle of the week. But you're making a selling point of, okay, well, you never really know what's going to happen in a live event. It's not out of the realm of possibility where they haven't done that before. In, I believe, a tag team championship change between I think Goldust and Booker T won it, or from, I think, a Christian tag team, like when Christian was a champion. Christian and Lance Storm, or La Resistance, one of those teams in the mid-2000s, early to mid-2000s. But, then they were advertising like, oh, well, at the live event there. Yeah, again, WWE is known from time to time to do stuff like that. I get that. But for a moment like that, you really should have broadcasted it. If at the very least, at least have the main event broadcasted, for God's sake. This is a historic moment, ladies and gentlemen, coming to you live from Madison Square Garden in New York City. We're about to witness history being made. Until 1972, women were not allowed to compete in New York City. Now, nearly 50 years after the fact, Ronda Rousey and Nia Jax are stepping in the ring, not only to compete against each other, but they're main eventing Madison Square Garden. Come on. Like, just saying that, I mean, I know I'm not no professional broadcaster, but that gave me chills. That's something I would have liked to have heard on a live broadcast of even a network special. You could have done something like that on the day after Christmas, for God's sake. But again, got people like me who care about the history of wrestling, that care about things like that. I would have liked to have seen it. Now, is this going to make me jump the gun and buy another Madison Square Garden ticket? Probably not. But it has also been a long time since I've gone to see a wrestling show at the Garden, so maybe one of these days. And this isn't just singling out WWE. I mean, all wrestling companies in the past, like big companies, you include WCW and NWA back in the day, all of them have had moments of, where they coulda, shoulda, woulda. You know what I mean? But this one was one that, because there's, again, it just really baffles my mind because they're so conscious about this, like the women's evolution, that they really should have thought about this a little bit more. And it's sad because you almost think of it like, are these people really detaching themselves from the history of WWE, of their own company, where their motto is then, now, forever. Celebrate the then and the now. So, it could have been done a lot better in that regard, but again, shit happens. But that's the one thing I gotta really complain about with that. Otherwise, for all the people in attendance, and I know plenty of people who were there, I'm very happy that you actually got to witness history in person. I'm happy that presumably you all had a great time at said event. And again, I don't really watch tweets for like live events. Again, unless you're within that area, you're going to pay attention to it. But everybody, in my opinion, most wrestling fans, whether they're around here or not, because I live in New Jersey, they pay attention to WWE MSG. So, I mean, how many people have said, "Oh, this is our first time. This is my kid's first show. This is my kid's like 10th or 11th show. This is my first time at a pro wrestling event or a WWE event. What a great Christmas present." So it's moments like that that I just really enjoy out of it. So we have the WWE and MSG thing now out of the way, but how about when Ring of Honor goes? Now, I'm going to order that pay-per-view. I don't care if Cody and the Bucks are not there. It's a historic moment because that's the first pro wrestling company that's not. It's the first company to run out of Madison Square Garden that's not related to the name McMahon in a long time. I think you have to go back to the 1940s or 50s to even think of another company that would have done such a thing. And even in a live show atmosphere that a WWE live show would bring, the Ring of Honor show is a different breed of crowd than a WWE crowd for the most part. And that's sold out. Now, I'm sure a lot of tickets have, I mean, I haven't really checked, but I can imagine because names like Cody and the Bucks aren't going to be there, those that you would have assumed would have been there at the time that the announcement was made. I'm sure tickets have been like on the secondary market or people looking to sell it, but there are going to be others that just want to see it. Now, if I were to catch tickets at a reasonable price, because again, I'm not made of money like certain people that I know, but if I found a pair of tickets at a decent price, I would go. And I wanted to go, but they were sold out before I can get anywhere near a computer. I couldn't believe it. Why would I want to go? Number one, it's another pro wrestling show at Madison Square Garden. I would love to go again, like I had just said before. Two, it's a different company running out of Madison Square Garden. Just the history of that by itself, I want to be there. Three, honestly, who the hell knows what's going to happen? It's WrestleMania weekend. Everybody's games are going to be stepped up because you really don't know who's watching. And depending on who else Ring of Honor winds up signing between now and then, I'm still interested in the card. Because you know that unless there's injury, you know the Briscoes are going to be there. You know that certain people are. Jay Lethal, again, I don't know if excuse me. I don't know if he'll be Ring of Honor champion by time that time comes around. Is this the event where you have the big blow off between the quote real world's Ring of Honor champion and the actual Ring of Honor champion? Is this where it's really going to wind up happening? You got Villain Enterprises, Marty Scurll, PCO, and Brody King. I mean, you have so many different guys. And think of this with PCO. I don't know if I'm pretty sure he has, because he was a WWE contracted wrestler at one point in his career. And I'm sure during his tenure, he probably either got the chance or did wrestle at the Garden. And if he didn't, he probably was contracted at a time where they were. I imagine that he did. But so many years later, and now at 50, he's got a resurgence in his career. Now Ring of Honor signed him to an exclusive deal. And on this redemption tour of his pro wrestling career, he gets to wrestle in Madison Square Garden, the place where his former employer ran out of again. Now that's cool. And I'm sure there's plenty of other talents that are like, oh yeah, well I never got to wrestle. I mean, I never got a chance to wrestle under WWE. Again, depending on who they sign. I never got to wrestle in the Garden under WWE